everybody. Start with the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have a quorum?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't count you, sorry.
I can help sometimes. I know these three are not.
Not coming?
I don't know about that. First thing is approval of the agenda. Have a motion? Somebody? Thank you. Second? Anybody second?
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any public comment? Not. Time for our 21-22 reporters.
Hello everyone, my name is Nora O'Connell and I'm a senior here at Connecticut, and I'm going to be giving you an update on like general school life, and then Becca will be doing an update on music and arts, and Logan will be doing an update on sports. So the first thing I have to update you on is everyone is back in person this year. We don't have anybody online. So we're still wearing the masks, but everybody's cooperating, wearing them, so that's good. Everyone seems really happy to be back, and students are now navigating getting back to a bit of normalcy as clubs are getting back. We have a lot of people volunteering at the Durham Fair with the clubs and with the sports. And people are going on field trips. Oceanography went on a kayaking field trip last Thursday, I believe. And then, yeah, that's about it. We're hoping to problem solve with the class councils and figure out things like homecoming and pep rallies. So yeah, that's about it. And Becca's
Hi, I'm Becca. As Nora said, I'm also a senior. I'm going to be updating you on music. This is a big year for music. We're finally back. We're hoping to have concerts. We have one scheduled in October for the 26th, where the chorus and band will be performing. But more recently, we're preparing for performances at the Durham Fairgrounds on Friday and Saturday. It's from about 10:30, 11 to 1-ish. If you want to come, definitely come. It's the show choir and jazz band. We're having so much fun being in person. It's hard to dance and play instruments over Zoom, and so this is amazing. We're hoping to have a show. We're working on all the music we can. We're still wearing masks in class, separated. The band performs and practices in the auditorium to be spaced out. But we're really excited for the Durham Fair. We can have masks off since we're outside and to have a live performance, and it's been a long time. So join us.
Hi, I'm Logan. I'm also a senior, and surprisingly, all of Connecticut sports teams have been doing very well this season. Football has gone 2-0 so far. They defeated Valley Regional this past Saturday with 14-0, and they're going to play their first away game against Old Saybrook this Saturday. Soccer currently has 1 win, 1 loss, and they're at 1 tie, which was they got yesterday. They will be playing against Haddam Killingworth tomorrow. Girls soccer has gone undefeated with 3 wins and 1 tie. They recently had a big win against East Hampton where they went 2-0. Those goals were scored by Katie Farr and Sam Paul. Volleyball is 3-1 this year as well, with captains Ava Morena and Hannah Nielsen leading the way. They're working on raising money for the Dig Pink game that will be held later this month. They will also be playing against Old Lyme, probably right now actually. Both cross-country teams have been doing amazing this season. The boys team has been led by Will Dallas and Hayden Gonzalez, a senior and a junior, and with both of them medaling at all 4 of our races so far. And all 15 boys on the team ran a PR this last Saturday at the River Valley Invitational, which is the first time in over a decade that something like that has happened. And then the girls team is also doing very well. They came in 3rd out of 12 teams at the Blue Dragon Invitational early this month and got a 3rd place trophy at the Portland Highlanders Invitational about a week ago. And I also just heard that at our home meet that was held today, we got the combined trophy for 2nd place at the meet out of 12 teams, and then the boys ran 3rd place out of 9 teams. And yeah, that's pretty much it on sports.
Very nice.
Any questions for our reporters? they're willing to talk.
They wanna go home.
Yeah, right. No.
They're about to have a busy weekend.
You think we ever leave this building?
Yeah, been here since.
Yeah.
The rain gear out.
All right, thanks a lot.
Hopefully the rain holds out there, right? Otherwise you're gonna be dancing in the rain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah.
Next item is the approval of the minutes from the Board of Education special meeting August 25th, 2021. Is there a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Any comments, questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Next board meeting is October 13th, 2021. Now we have a presentation of what's going on in the summer school program, which was attended by some over 200 students and learners. And I don't know who's gonna start.
Corey.
Corey.
Just get it connected. You guys, if you wanna come up and join me. Cut it off.
Blocking the screen.
You can see Buddy.
I can see you.
Great. So we had a very exciting summer in 2021. We had many learning opportunities, thanks to our ESSER II funds. And we were able to provide our learners with expanded learning opportunities and explore how we could personalize learning, tap into interests, and reimagine learning and teaching. We also had an opportunity to re-socialize and engage our learners this summer because of COVID. So that was wonderful to see all the students in person. So we had several opportunities, our professional learning projects, and I invited some folks to come with me. So we have Ryan Bothamley, we have Melody Lee, we have Mrs. Aronson who is here, we have Mrs. Vance is here. Oh, hi. We have Noelle Jerkin who is here, and we have Joanna Schmidt. So they decided to present this with me, and you can see all of the opportunities that we had this summer, and of course our ESY learning, spearheaded by Jen, and Linda Frazier-Sierra was the facilitator. We also had some summer learning Padlets, and so when I send this to the Board of Education, you'll have this presentation, and you can click on these, and then you'll open it up and you'll see the Padlets if you aren't a parent and haven't seen it already. So, and those are the folks at the top that helped put all the Padlets together. So you can see their names too: Carrie Chernovich, Mary Beth Ward, Sharon Burnt, Kristen Blake, Kristen Allen, Deb Mariani, Maureen Hamilton, Gina Lentini, Katie Reddick, Courtney Dreich, and Brenda Parness. So we're going to start with our personalized learning projects at the high school, and I'm going to introduce Ryan Bothamley to take this piece. Ryan.
Thank you. Great. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm thrilled to share what went on during this week at the high school art room. I thought it was a great opportunity to design a class, design an experience for the students that could help transition back into in-person learning. Half my students were distance learners before this experience, and everyone expressed their that it was a positive experience getting back into the classroom. So it was a week-long event, 3 hours every day, and we started each day with a little initiation together. I provided just a 15, 20-minute hands-on experience with a medium that they weren't expecting. We did sgraffito tiles and some glass I'll share with you. But after that 20 minutes, they started a project that they had planned long before the start of the class. They had written a proposal of what they wanted to do. So they had ideas about the painting or sculpture that they wanted to work on. So this was a ceramic tile that everyone worked on a tile. It was just a 20-minute warm-up where they, it was just a white stoneware tile with black underglaze, and they scratched through with a needle tool, and it was able to be fired, and they brought it home. We worked with dichroic glass. They made pendants. They stacked the glass up, and was fired in the kiln. It was something that they could bring home immediately. And these were short little projects that they could do in the morning, and then in the afternoon, we moved on to projects that they designed themselves. So I was ready to kind of help facilitate that, and each was authentic to the students' vision of what they wanted to accomplish. There was a lot of choice and voice in that. So the engagement was just outstanding. The 3 hours just went by in a blink. It was like a college level studio class. It was so rigorous. I was very impressed with all the students. There was time to work on their main projects, whether it's painting or sculpture, and I could work with them individually, and there was time for collaboration and reflection afterwards, all in one sitting. So I was thrilled, and at the end of this, there was quite a lot accomplished. They brought home finished work, so there was a public product that they brought home and shared with their family and community. So I was thrilled to be a part of this. I just have a couple letters that were written by students that were given to me. I've got a couple sentences highlighted, but I'll read through quickly. Thank you for having Independent Art Studio this summer. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed that it was artist-led, as it allowed me to explore different types of art and my interests. Thank you so much for offering feedback, tips, ideas to improve and enhance my artistic knowledge and skill. I appreciate that you went above and beyond to create this wonderful artistic opportunity for students. And then another letter that I thought spoke to the transition back into school. I want to thank you for this wonderful time that I had in Independent Art Studio. After participating in school and activities remotely for over a year, it was amazing to do something fun and in person. I enjoyed freedom, choice, creativity that came in Independent Art Studio because it gave me the opportunity to focus what I was interested in. Thank you for showing me how to do use different drawing materials, giving me tips and suggestions on how to improve my artwork. I'm looking forward to taking more art classes with you in the future. Have a nice summer. So I was really, I was thrilled to read these because that's all I could hope for. I'd like to introduce Melody Lee, the Chinese Exploration. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Don't go away. What's paper quilling?
The paper quilling, yeah.
What is that?
Oh my gosh. So it's a, go back. And this is just, there was a lot more, but this was just a piece of it. The paper quilling is it's a small sculptural, ties in the crafts world, but it's coiled paper. And it was the project was designed by a student, and they started twisting up pieces of finely cut paper. She was cutting it. She started cutting paper, and I said, "Let's approach this differently. What if we borrowed the paper shredder from Guidance and we shredded paper, so we have thin ribbons?" And then we walked into the tech ed room. I had a small piece of steel wire that I cut a small slot in with a hacksaw and made a tool so she could spin and spiral the paper and create the twining and spiraling paper pieces. And I don't have an example, but I could share it with you. There was another student working in epoxy resin, and there was some collaboration between the two that totally excited me. The epoxy poured over the quilling, creating these incredible objects that could become all kinds, jewelry. They're sculpture in their own right, but scoop, I could see jewelry, or it was really incredible. It felt like we were just getting started.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can actually see these in Hallmark stores, the really expensive ones. You might see them with Quilling, and they're outrageously priced. So just look at
Thank you.
So I was really delighted to have a chance to do a Chinese exploration course. We also had our class for a week. It was 2 hours every day. We had some people who participated in both Ryan's class and mine. And I had 7 students who participated, and we had an hour every day of language instruction. So they got to learn about the Chinese tones. You know, the famous example where if you say ma the wrong way, you would be calling your mother a horse. So you have to learn the right way to say it. The students, by the end of this short week, could have a conversation where they introduced themselves, talked about their family, their interests, their age, you know, what pets they have, and where they live. And they did a presentation at the end for, a lot of people were busy, but we were able to do a presentation for Mr. Falcone and Ms. Votto. And they were so proud of what they learned. In the second hour of the day, we learned about Chinese calligraphy, Chinese history, a little bit about their political system, and music and culture. So this was, you know, some of the slides from their presentation as they were speaking and telling us about themselves. And I asked the students to share a little bit about what they learned in that short time. One student said, I was able to learn the fundamentals of a very unique language and culture. I'm able to take what I learned and apply it in the context of our school's global partnership. The information was presented in a very engaging way and made learning a very difficult language fun and as easy as possible. Another said, we learned so much in the week we met, and the class provided a good base for those of us who wanted to continue our Chinese studies. And this student said, I realized my passion for studying and learning about different languages and cultures. The program helped cultivate my thirst for knowledge of people all across the globe and helped me recognize the importance of studying one's culture before assuming, judging, or belittling. While I learned how to communicate in Chinese, I also learned about Chinese culture, government, and beliefs, which helped me recognize my desire to travel across the world and incorporate these programs into real-world scenarios. And several of these students decided to continue their studies independently after our week-long program. One studied Chinese mythology and has prepared a presentation about that. One studied Chinese history and is planning to present that to one of our global studies classes here at Coggins. And one continued learning the language and is working on starting a Chinese language club with other students. So it's great kids, and they really accomplished some great things in a short time. And now we will hear from
Thank you.
So I'm being asked to speak about some of the summer exploration camps, and our goal was to address some of that unfinished learning, but in a really engaging way that allowed some choice for students, and also kind of brought back some of that re-socializing that they desperately needed. So I got to work with one of my favorite people. Myself and Jenny Lucier did a math and coding camp. Math-wise, we focused on a lot of number sense and a lot of visual spatial geometry, which is that unit we sometimes don't get to spend enough time on. This is a Turing tumble. One of our goals was to spend as little time as possible on screens. Obviously, you can't do too much coding without some amount of screens, but it was really very minimal. We had a couple of days with no screens at all. So this is a Turing tumble. It's actually, believe it or not, a way to study binary code, because each little switch is turned either on or off, and your goal is to make the little marble fall in a particular way. Osmo is a way to practice math concepts, math facts, using these interactive tiles, and they are read by an iPad. So this is my favorite picture because on the last day we offered some kids some choice, and we had multiple opportunities for them, and most of them gravitated towards the Kiva planks. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to work together, they wanted to solve problems, and they wanted to create. And it was really eye-opening to me that they didn't want to play with the cool robots, they didn't necessarily want to go on the websites and do code.org. They really wanted to build together, which was just so fabulous for kids who'd been not having as much socializing experience. We also did another activity where we went outside. We drew mazes on the pavement with chalk and blindfolded a kid, and then their partner had to give them directions just as you would a robot. We did that because we noticed kids were having a hard time with the left and right. So that was a really fun activity. And we did a couple of other paper-based coding activities using graph paper and things like that. We also used some robots that either get programmed with an iPad app or you use colored lines that they follow along. So it was a great experience. The kids all wanted to be there. They had chosen to be there. And we kind of let their interests be our guide as much as possible.
What age group did you have?
I have 3rd through 5th graders, kids entering 3rd through entering 5th grade.
Actually, all of our camps revolved around that age group. That's just the way it turned out.
So Mrs. Longley, who's the memorial art teacher, did some mixed media art. It's not my area of specialization, but I feel like the pictures speak for themselves. Come on, how cool.
Wait, you've got your samples?
We're getting there. Don't worry.
Sorry.
They're all jealous because I brought props. So we had some people from the Connecticut STEM Academy come in and do a STEAM camp. So this is playing with, what do they call it? Snap circuits, which is what it sounds like. You're trying to build a circuit to either turn a light on or make a fan blow or something. There is a link so you can watch the video when you guys get a copy of this. You may want to click that link. They made cotton ball catapults. They did a paper plate maze. They did what's called a rotation tower, and my understanding of this, I wasn't there, but my understanding is that kids are trying to build a tower that has some rotation in it so that it helps it withstand an earthquake better. So they were kind of taking that engineering to try and address some real world problems. Marshmallow 3D shapes, I mean, how fun, and some watercolor sun prints. I don't know what these were, but they look really cool. And then we actually did the same, we used the Ozbots as well. So if you click on the link, you'll be able to actually see those robots in action. Again, it's a kind of coding, but no screen. So this is my favorite because before I came, I reached out to the other teachers, and the level of passion and excitement as they all got back to me within like an hour to say like, oh my God, all the cool things that we did. And Ms. Sorensen might win the award because she gave me like a full detail of what she did. So day 1 was bug day. So they went out, they collected soil samples, collected bugs. Day 2 was bird focused. So they went out, they looked at birds, and then they came back and made a craft. They used, what you call it, upcycled birdhouses. And then day 3, they collected rocks, painted positive messages on them, and then with the intention of spreading them along the path, Wadsworth. And then finally the last day, because it's Miss Sorensen, they read a book, they learned about folklore, they learned about fairies, and they took a hike, collected materials, and then built fairy houses. And she described that this was one of the favorite things. Now, my daughter happened to attend this camp, so I have props. Mrs. House did a ceramics camp, and she was in a building without a kiln, I understand, so she was using like a self-drying kind of a clay. These are these little animals. Oh my God, they are so cute. I have like a whole menagerie of them at home. My daughter came home every day just so excited. This is the girl who doesn't like to talk about school. She was so excited to share what she had made that day. Like, we got a nice ring holder. We got a great, earrings on. So what Carrie Howes asked me to share is that having a group of students who were interested in the same topic and had chosen to be there allowed for some really deep personal connections and some much deeper learning. And that was a really cool experience coming off of a pandemic here. Oh, there we go. There's the bracelets, there's the earrings. All right, and I'm going to pass it along to Noelle Bergman, unless there's any questions.
I don't have any fun props. I'm really sorry about this. Melinda forgot to tell me that I needed props. But I'm here to talk to you today about the summer learning opportunity that we afforded students in the district. We had about 80 students attend in entering grades 1 through grade 5, with about 8 teachers and 2 paraprofessionals this year. Phil Moriarty, who's a grade 4 teacher at Lyman, and I were the co-directors of the summer program. And he also shared an administrative assistant and a nurse with the extended school year program that was led by Linda Sierra Frazier at Brewster School as well, who also had about 70 students and 8 teachers as well as paraprofessionals. So Brewster School was a really busy place this summer. So this year, given the fact that we had the ESSER funds money through a grant, we were really able to personalize instruction, and that was our theme for the summer program. We were able to look at where the students were in the spring, use that data, and then create classes based on their targeted needs. So they received a lot of small group instruction throughout the grades, and we worked on reading, writing, and math. The small class sizes of less than 11 students, in conjunction with 2 paraprofessionals that were allowed to go into every single classroom and help out for some small group instruction, really was able to, I think, make the gains that we saw this summer because it was such small groups and it was based on the skills that they were needed to work on. At the end of the program, we sent home a narrative progress report to all families as well as to the principals and interventionists, and then it was shared with classroom teachers to let everyone know what was worked on as well as the progress that was made in all of the areas. Students worked on such skills like phonics and blending. We used a real multi-sensory approach because the students were able to really kind of get their hands in on a small group there. They also worked in the older grades, like the entering 4th, entering 5th, a lot on comprehension, especially of informational text. And in the younger grades, we did some math, had a lot of fun with counting different objects. From years past, there were a lot of changes compared to this year's summer learning opportunity. Last year, we were virtual for the entire thing. The year before that, we had about 40 students. Compared to this year's 80 students. We had about 4 teachers in the past. This year we had 8. As well as we did not have any paraprofessional support, and this year we were able to offer 2. All of that really allowed us to have those classes grouped based on data and academic need so that we could really address the unfinished learning from a pandemic year. As you can see, the enrollment doubled, professional support. Transportation was offered this year as well through the ESSER funds and the grant. A lot of families really took advantage of the transportation to and from school. With a lot of working families, that had been something that they had not been able to partake in the years past due to transportation. And this year, fortunately, we were able to afford that opportunity. Most students did take us up on that, and I now have a new appreciation for community. DATCO and Lori Wozniak, who all helped me through the transportation process, and I never knew that you probably need a degree in coding to actually write the transportation routes. So I learned a lot about that. We also offered breakfast and lunch to all of the students, and this year the Foundations program that we use K4 actually right now, they came up with a way to address unfinished learning with a Ready to Rise. So it was a bridge program that bridged the grade that the students were exiting and then going into. And so we were able to use that program, and teachers found that very beneficial because it really targeted some of the areas that were common for students to have difficulty with a pandemic year. So then I asked the teachers, students, and families for some feedback. You can see here that 2 teachers responded. You can see the first one there, she really enjoyed teaching summer school. I like that the classes are kept small and you already know what skills you need to focus on with your students because of the information provided by their teacher. This year it was so helpful to have another person in the classroom even for a half hour so you could meet with individual students or small groups to solidify the literacy or math skills those students were in need of. What's even better is that the students loved being there even though it was summertime. And lastly, the summer program was exceptionally organized. We have information sheets about each of our students that included contact information and the most current academic data. The small groups in each of the classrooms allowed teachers to focus on individualized instruction throughout the literacy and math block each day. The result was maintenance and in some cases, progression of important foundational skills. So working at the primary grades, I asked the students for some feedback. So this was their feedback straight from them. My teacher gave me the courage to keep working even when it got hard, so I kept going. I loved writing. I really like math this summer and adding and subtracting big numbers. Recess was so much fun with my friends, and I just loved everything. I think a lot of that had to go into the fact that during the summer program, we were able to have a little bit more social interaction, and the students really enjoyed that. And that was a part of our 3-hour block, that they did have a morning meeting, they did have recess, they did have snack together, so that we could build in some of the social emotional learning. And for family feedback, one parent commented that her son participated in the program at Brewster and loved it. He felt so special that he was chosen for the program. When he found out he was going, he got a huge smile on his face and said, "I can't believe I was so good this year. They wanted me to come back in the summer." He had no idea that the program was to build his skills. It was so fun for him that he assumed it was a treat. My husband and I both work full time and don't always have the opportunity to work with him as much as we would like, especially during the summer. It was so reassuring to know that he was continuing to learn and grow while having tons of fun. Thank you to the Brewster School faculty and staff for always being there for my kids. And the Brewster School faculty and staff, she means everyone from the summer program that was there, which was teachers from Brewster, Lyman, no, Brewster, Lyman. And last, family feedback. They thought that the summer learning opportunity was just what the daughter needed. Kindergarten was a bit challenging for her, but she made great strides towards the end of the year. Summer school gave her the chance to keep up with the skills she had just begun to master, and I feel like it also gave her an extra bit of confidence going into a new year. So that is some feedback from our summer learning opportunity. And now I'm going to turn it over to Melody Lee and Joanna Schmidt to share about the Kindergarten Academy.
So near the end of the summer, we had a really wonderful opportunity to facilitate a kindergarten academy. The goal of this academy was to help incoming kindergartners at both Brewster and Lyman to get used to the routines of kindergarten, to see the teachers, to get to know some other children, and also for us to get to know the kids a little bit and see some ways we can prepare to help them learn well when they start the school year. We had more than 40 students participate. We noticed in seeking parent feedback or parent comments before the program that there was a lot of anxiety, especially this year. A lot of students had not attended preschool at all. Some had had their preschool routines very disrupted due to COVID. And this program was so fun for the students. It put the minds of the students and the parents at ease. We had 2 wonderful, experienced kindergarten teachers, Sharon Burnt and Carrie Kaczynski, and even with the masks, you can see the smiles on their faces. They just make you feel happy. And here's one parent's comment saying going into kindergarten is a big step and can be overwhelming. I recommend this program to other incoming kindergarten families because it provides the children with the opportunity to become familiar with the school and routines in a quiet and safe environment without the pressure of other older students around. So it was a really valuable experience. We had a morning and afternoon session, and Joanna will tell us something about that.
I think just the 2 pictures on this slide, you can see that this program, like Melody's having 2 sessions, morning and afternoon, and it was only a couple hours just to kind of accommodate these children being so little. But in that time, they were playing instruments. You can see them sitting in a circle, and those routines were really emphasized throughout the program while also working on the standards. And you can see them playing here outside, and also what I think is really cool is you had Melinda sharing a picture that looks really similar to that photo on the right, but that child is a lot older. And so they started to build these skills right away. They started noticing things that were the same, things that were different. And what we loved about watching this was by the time they were leaving this program after those 4 days, this was like old hat to them. Who was climbing when, who was going where, and those routines were really strongly built in this program. And so another parent had said that their daughter loved every day, just enough to acclimate and become familiar with the new environment, meeting building professionals as well as peers, helped to ease any anxiety, and I think that was true for parents and students. That would have surfaced, and she was walking into Brewster for the first time, of having some kind of understanding of who she was going to see, and that this academy, through the ESSER funds for this year, was extremely beneficial and for her social and emotional well-being. when planning, these Connecticut early learning standards were at the forefront of what we worked with Carrie and Sharon to build a program that would be comprehensive, but that would also allow for the kids to be kids. So these standards were taken from the state, and Carrie and Sharon worked really hard to make sure that there were bits and pieces of each standard in every part of their day. So there was a math block, there was a reading block, there was play outside, and through all of that, these standards were addressed and routines were really strongly built. So when those students knew what to do the second day with their backpacks and where to go and where to sit and to look for their name. And those are the kinds of things that, as elementary school teachers, take so much time at the very beginning, and they were kind of walking in with that understanding. And so using these standards, I think we were able to weave in the routines with also starting academic rigor in kindergarten.
And we were also helped, I wanted to mention, by 2 teaching assistants, 2 paraprofessionals who were really great and ready to step in whenever something came up. And a few things came up and everything went smoothly because everybody worked as a team.
And the parents, when they registered, were able to share insights with us about their child, and with permission, we were able to share those insights with the principals at Brewster and Lyman, and that was also shared with the teachers, which is just something that is so valuable for teachers and leaders at the beginning of the school year. That eases the child's transition, eases the parents' transition, and helps the staff kind of know who's going to be in their classroom.
Back to you, Cole.
Okay, well, all of this couldn't happen without the wonderful people. Here's some more pictures. Aren't they just adorable? All of this couldn't happen with the wonderful people who stepped up to take on these positions this summer. Honestly, we thought we were going to have difficulty getting teachers after such a stressful year, but we were able to get our teachers and our paras and our office support and our nurses, and we couldn't do it without them. So these folks are amazing. They've done a wonderful job, and I can't thank them enough, everybody who was involved. So thank you so much. And I don't know if you have any more questions. I know we took long enough, sorry, but it's just exciting stuff. So,
Corey, I listened to the way the program was set up, structured, highly personalized, very interactive. And I can't help but think, when I think back on the reimagining education that we're undergoing, was this like a pilot program for that? Can we take the learnings from this? Can we take the learnings from this and start integrating it?
Yeah, so basically when we were designing this, that was the intention. Let's really try to take a look and get creative with this, which is why we did the personalized learning projects at the high school. And we wanted the summer camps to be exploratory. And even with the summer school, which is fairly traditional typically, we wanted to divide the groups by student needs, not just you're in first grade, so you're in a first grade classroom.
Right.
So yes, all of that was by design, Bob.
So that's like you ran your first pilot.
Sort of, yes.
Awesome. Congratulations and thank you to everyone. It's great accomplishments. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I
guess. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so I know that this was mostly made available because of the ESSER funds, which likely won't happen again. But if you had to pick one, and I know this is a hard question, but if you had to pick one of those programs that you felt was the most.
She says there's all of them stand up
I'm
there.
sorry. I don't. I mean, I have, and I'm not a teacher, but I have an idea of what I think as a parent was probably the most.
It is really hard to answer that, and I'm not trying to skirt the question. All of them are beneficial. They truly were, and we typically run a summer school program, so yes, we could run that again. It was expanded this year. But I loved the personalized learning in all areas, and quite frankly, having our young learners come in prior to kindergarten, I thought was
absolutely essential, you know, as I saw this, and especially coming off after a year where maybe students didn't attend
Right.
nursery school. But I do think that's really important, and it wasn't for many days. We did it for a week. I would have liked to have done it for 2. But I think a week might have been fine.
Yeah.
And so I can't answer that, Missy, because I think they're all important. So, sorry.
I mean, I just wish
but-
we had, and maybe we will, but I wish we had the funding to be able to continue something like this.
Well, maybe we on the
Well-
board can get creative.
We can work
Maybe
the
we
numbers
can.
and we can present it and,
Right.
you know, the board can make decisions.
But I think,
so.
I mean, everything
You do have the
seems
numbers, Kim, right?
awesome, so thank you for everyone that was part of that.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, I appreciate it.
Andrew had a
Thank you.
question.
I mean, it was along those same lines. I was just wondering if this is something sustainable for the future, and I agree that we should think about prioritizing it from a board standpoint, so.
Thank you.
Did some of the students want to, especially in the high school program, want to continue during school? Was there any feedback to say, let's do this
I
after
think the
school?
Chinese, Melody, we're fortunate, she's
Yeah.
fluent in Chinese. And so, you know, the students do want to continue with the program, you said, and one of them is actually continuing with the learning. And I know Ryan would love to have 3-hour classes every day.
After
So-
school with the students during art club.
Yeah, he does
Today,
art
after
club.
school, I was with a group of, and some of the same students that were, during the independent art program. They were with me after school today, doing their own thing, and I was checking in with them, and,
We have talented
yeah,
students.
so,
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
I'm thrilled to be a part of it.
Yeah, we all are. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I could say just thanks to everyone, and in all of these comments, and maybe to kind of sum this up the way I view it, if we restrict this type of work to the summer space and leave everything else as it is, we will be missing tremendous opportunities. And that's why I think we're reimagining, because it's hard to imagine some of this maybe happening the way we operate school now. But if we can capture that passion from our learners and from our educators, I mean, wow. So I think that's our challenge. Doesn't mean we couldn't still try to do some of this in the immediate short term as we're not transformed yet. But even to Missy's question, which one of these are you really gonna pick? I mean, it saddens me that we're even thinking about something like that, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Corey, I love the feedback of the parent who said it kind of gave their student a running start for kindergarten. And we always have some support in that realm anyway, right before they start, they kind of get used to routines. I thought we used to, without summer school.
We do a
talking.
bus run, you know, with the students, but we don't typically do anything
I thought there was some in the
formalized,
program,
so.
it's going back 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it
But
takes-
that's great, if we can get these kids on a running start and just in the right mindset for learning right from day one, because, yeah, if you have chaos for the first 3 weeks, it's not easy with young kids.
And you know what, it helps
you know.
well, it helps the parents too, because I think the parents are just as anxious, if not more, than the children, right, or than the learners. So, you know, all of us, or most of us being parents, we know how that feels.
One last follow-up on what Jamie said. Was that all of the pre-K students, or was it a select group?
No, we offered it to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It was 45 students, so it's half the incoming kindergarten.
But we offered it to everybody. We didn't pick it.
All right, and had everyone signed up, then you would have provided it to everyone. So, okay, good.
It would have been interesting, but yes.
Yeah, but there where you said you wish you had 2 weeks, well, maybe it's 1 week with half of them and 1 week with the other half. And
Right.
Yes.
it becomes a funding issue.
What we ended up doing, Bob, is we ended up dividing it into half days.
Right.
So we took a group, 20-something students in the morning,
Yeah.
and then 20-something in the afternoon. And so we ended up making it work, so.
But if you had 80 kids, then it would have also had to been 20 the week before in the
Or we
morning.
would have
and
done
20
40 and 40,
Yes.
you know, we
If
just
you
would have
had the
needed more
staff, yeah.
teachers,
Yes.
so.
Did they go to the school that they were going to attend?
We didn't do that. We kept it in one school because we needed a nurse. And
Okay.
so we were really conscientious of cost. And we wanted to give them an experience. So unfortunately, we didn't have that opportunity, but.
Well, thank you all, and thank you for your work this summer, and good luck this year. Hopefully you'll see some benefit from the kids you had this summer. And you'll keep track of that, right?
We're looking at the data. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, that was fascinating. Back to the dull stuff. Missy, you have a report on the building committee?
Yep. I'm sure I wrote it down, I was paying attention. Yes, we need to approve the roof for, I don't know where my notes are, I'm sorry.
It's the approval of the final plan.
Yeah, we need to approve the final plans for the roof of Memorial, and that will take place this coming summer. And we were approved a grant for a part of it. And I know I wrote some things down, but I cannot find them.
That's okay.
We had talked about the roof, and that the building committee needed to look at the educational specifications, the drawings, and then this is the project manual that if you want to read, come on up. We only have one of them, but the building committee did approve the plans. I did put at your seats that the letter from the state indicating the acceptance of the program and a 55.72% reimbursement rate, which is the highest we've ever had, well, that I know of. And that the cost is at $275,000, which is what we did put in the bonding, the $6.9 million bonding. So we're right on budget, believe it or not. And these are updated numbers, so this should work. So what I'm asking you this evening is to approve what you see in there, really the specs, the cost estimate, and this binder. You do have, I don't know if everyone has it, but there is a motion at a few people's seats, or I have one if it has to be worded specifically the way the state wants to.
Yes, you can add that one.
In order to pass that.
No, but I'll leave it.
If you would like to see the cost breakdown, budget, which is really what you'll be voting on, it looks like this, it's on this page. And this has been vetted by the building committee and the architects, and it's pretty much routine stuff, and we just need this to be approved by both the building committee and the full board before we can move on to a planning meeting with the state.
And I found my notes, sorry. And I did ask Jimmy, because I feel like Jimmy is, the god
Jimmy's
around
in
here, and I
yep.
said, are you happy? And he said yes, and I said, then okay, I'll vote for it.
We didn't go over the plans and specs in the drawings at the meeting.
Yeah. The other thing that we talked about was the culvert, which is planned to be between May and August of 2022. And many of you, and we might have talked about this after the last utilization meeting, but we have decided to put a hold on the security vestibules at this point. And we're kind of doing some more research on safety and things like that.
I can add to that. That was, I had actually taken the security vestibules off the building committee's list, job list. So that's what we discussed about, because it's not a reimbursement project anymore. So the building committee did not need to have oversight of that, so.
So, does anyone have any questions? Otherwise, I will read the motion. So this is the vote to accept the final plans for the memorial roof. We hereby certify that these final plans and project manuals, as prepared for bidding and dated July 9th, 2021, and the professional cost estimate completed in accordance with Level 3 of ASTM, International Standard E1557, Standard Classification of Building Elements and Related Site Work, Uniformat 2, for this project dated July 9th, 2021, have been reviewed and approved for this project on the dates shown above.
Second that motion.
Any other comments? Not all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And the next item is communications. We had two communications, one from Amy Bonoci, I think, is how you pronounce her name, concerning getting high school credits for college courses taken by high school students. And Matt has worked with her, and they're coming to an agreement on how that should be handled. Our original looks like that we can, that can be handled at the principal's level without us having to have change in our policy on that.
Just on that front, can we have a I know this is a communication, but I'm just trying to figure out what that actual plan is in place, because there was a lot of issues around weighting of grades and there's one aspect for giving credit, there's another aspect for weighting of grades. I think it has a lot of implications for a lot of awards and other things, so I think there's that issue. The other issue is that we're already past the start of the school year, and that opportunity, if the credit is to be offered or to be acknowledged, that opportunity wasn't offered to all students at the time. So I think we have to just consider that as well.
Yeah, I think that was Matt's concern, right?
Say that last word again?
Yeah, you're concerned about how you weight credits and things like that.
Yeah, some of the things that you mentioned are part of that larger discussion of implications on those types of things, and just trying to figure out the equitable way to do that for everyone. So, yeah.
Yeah, this one caught me off guard because I'm accustomed to not singling out a single college program over in, like, whether it's community college, if it's being accredited by a college or a community college, that we wouldn't want to put ourselves in the position of being arbitrary. But to your point, that may have been the tradition here, and Matt's one of the few people that's newer than me here, so so I think you raise good points in that, but I think that's where we're trying to drive to, is to say if someone finds a course, this is my opinion, I'm only speaking for me, finds a course at a college or university that maybe wasn't technically listed in the program, who are we to judge that college course is any less worthy of whatever credit and weighted grade would be assigned to that? That's my opinion.
I would agree with your opinion in that, again, I go back to reimagining education. If someone has a real deep passion in marine biology and can get into a program offered at URI, where Bob Ballard runs the program there, and starts taking great classes, we should recognize the value of those classes and allow them to take them, encourage them to take them, because this is all of our, reaching outside of our four walls of our building, So I would agree with that position.
Yeah, I think of the two, Andrew, I think the awarding of high school credit is actually the simpler one, because
that to me is far
because the principal does have that discretion, and just like he or any of our principals in the high school would, if somebody moved here from another state and they had to analyze the transcript, and we kind of do that all the time. I think what you may be referring to is, in the valedictorian wars or whatever it goes on, we want to be thoughtful about this, but again, I think if we're not careful, we could be accused of being arbitrary under our current operating stance. Again, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I guess it just can get it's a slippery slope, and it could drive some of our best students, and from a competition standpoint, to taking all classes not at in this school.
Right.
Because if they're trying to maximize their GPA let's be honest, a valedictorian from a financial standpoint is a huge financial benefit. And there's other scholarships from a competitive standpoint for college. I just think I'm all for recognizing the academic achievements of our students, and especially students that are willing to go take college courses. I think, and recognizing that credit, I think is one thing. Although I think we should acknowledge that very little in life do you get double credit for anything. So I don't, they're taking college credit, they get college credit, that's great. It goes to their college credit. I think you can make a strong argument that it shouldn't also count for high school credit as well. It's either one or the other if they want to do those things. Although, again, I understand that might discourage students from taking those things, and we should be somewhat lax in how we kind of apply credit standards. But the weighting, I think, is a different issue. Yeah. I think we have rigorous classes that are weighted, and I think I think we have to acknowledge the reality is that all classes that are at the college level are not the same. They're not the same from a rigor standpoint. I think it's tough, but I think we should really, really talk about this and really think about the weighting of those classes and how that's done. I think we've had a good system in the past. And basically it's just the UConn classes or AP classes at this point. Those are all state accredited from my understanding. That's been the way the state has handled this. You don't get credit, even though we have a Wesleyan program, you don't get credit for those classes, and you don't get any additional weighting on those classes. To open that up, I think we should have a more lengthy discussion on that, because I think it's a bigger issue than just one student.
Yeah, I agree, and my personal opinion is the problem is not the one you addressed. It's the problem is, well, you kind of did. It's the weighting of grades and the unhealthy competitiveness that comes with that. Because what I would argue is that all AP courses are not of the same rigor. And so that's arbitrary in itself to say every AP course itself should be weighted the same amount when there's data that shows that different ones are of different levels of rigor. And the same could be said of any college level class. That's why I personally subscribe to there'd be no way to do that in a fair way. So if we are going to weight grades, which we don't have to, but most places do, it becomes difficult to defend one college course over another, to your point, just like it is to defend one AP course over another. The AP would like it if we did that, because they want everyone to send them money for tests in the spring, and I think the reality is more learners and families actually prefer the straight credit and not having to validate it on some test at the end of the year, at least from a financial standpoint. So I think as we go forward, I guess my position, wherever we land on this, is going to be, I want to encourage people, to your point, Bob, to follow their passions, and I don't see at a school this size that we're ever going to be able to offer everything that our learners want, and I think helping connect them to those resources and not make them feel punished or penalized, because what we offer in our suite of courses, be them UConn or AP, I think the competition thing, you're correct. We have to do this thoughtfully, and I think Matt will. He's only been here a month, but he's.
But I think Andrew had suggested that student achievement look at this, and I think it's a good place for us to have the next discussion of this is how do we get in depth on these issues so everybody's looking at the same kind of information and the same depth of knowledge on it.
And regardless, I think for this school year, I would not be in support of any changes, because we've already started. It is what it is. And I think it's unfair to any student that didn't know that scenario beforehand, or if we change rules midway through. The students knew when they went into this year, if they were going to take college level credits, they weren't going to get credit at the high school. That's what you knew. It's not the other way around, where you didn't know if you weren't going to be able to take a college level credit, and you'd get credit also at the high school. So I think from a fairness standpoint, we should keep it as it is this year, and I think that'll give us time to address this through student achievement, because I just see it opening up. I mean, a big issue. Like, I can see several of our top students being like, I'm going to take all college level classes. I won't be here next year. And I think that's a huge loss for the school system when those students aren't actually present within the school on a day-to-day basis. And so I think we really need to be thoughtful about this before we really take a step forward.
And we'll pursue that on the student achievement. The other comment I got was from Stephen McDowell was on clarification of COVID testing and response in how to deal with children that are sick, and Jen has answered his questions. The next item, any other communications?
I had a phone call from a Middlefield resident, just asking some general questions about the upcoming referendum. You know, basically, one of the bigger questions was, you know, we already got a no vote. If we get another no vote, we're gonna keep coming back as a board until we get a yes vote. The cost for the construction, they wanted to know why capital repairs aren't kept up. And also there was a question about how many students do we actually lose to other schools, which would also include Mercy and Xavier, which is not on our list, you know, the Catholic schools. But those are the questions that were asked.
Any other?
I was just wondering, because I only looked on my phone, not on the actual regular website, but Doug had mentioned that there would be like a daily COVID. Is that happening?
You want to speak to that, Jen?
Sure, yes, it is happening.
Where is it?
Yeah, on the RSD13 website,
Yes.
in the tabs, there's the home on the left side, and all the way on the right side is the 2021 fall COVID tab, and under that tab is our back to school opening guidelines with a daily line list of positive cases.
Yeah, it's a series of hyperlinks. We may have to change that at some point as we get to like day 100 or something, but right now the most recent day is at the top, but you can scroll and click on any link. And it's updated every day, even if there are no cases, which has been the case just about every day. Not every day, but just about every day. Yeah.
One day alignment.
Yes.
Thanks. Item 10 is update on alignment potential closure. All I want to do is say is that we have filed all the required documents with both town clerks. They've been received and posted at town halls. The referendum has been scheduled for November 2nd. The resolution that we, along with the fact sheet or fact replacement, the statement of what's going on, minimal as it is, according to Bob, but it's there, and our resolution.
Not minimal. My objection to it was the fact that he struck the comment, he struck that this board moved to go to a single program, but kept in the comment that back in whenever, the board voted to establish a separate program at Lyman School, the integrated day program. But then did not include the comment that we've now struck that, which could lead someone reading those to assume, well, if we keep the school open, the program stays open, because there's no mention of the program closing. And that was, you said that was in the initial,
Yeah,
you
it's in
had
the draft.
forwarded,
Right.
and our attorney struck it. I don't understand the logic for striking it. Keeping one in and striking the other, either keep them both out or put them both in, I just didn't understand that. And that, to me, it's just, we keep fighting these. You know, we keep hearing people say, we'll keep it open so we keep the program. We've moved past the program. We're now reimagining education. We're moving forward on it. We already ran a pilot this summer. You know, it's like, I don't know. It's just another shot in our foot. But that's my view.
I also signed the resolution to say that Lyman wouldn't close until June of 2023. If it passes. So those are all been, it's all the legal stuff has been done. So I just want to report that. Any other questions on that?
No, I do have one comment on some of the questions that Lucy had been asked. And it's a question I keep hearing, which is, why don't we reserve money for our buildings? And we can't because of
Right.
the state. So.
How many times have you said that, and how many, and meeting
So,
after meeting?
so I'd like to propose, as we go into this next budget season, that we work with Kim very closely to develop, to completely flesh out the 20-year plan and how much we need to reserve, and hold a joint meeting with the boards of selectmen and the boards of finance, and ask the boards of finance, do you want us to continue to go to bond, or do you want to reserve? And if you want to reserve, put it in your town reserves and hold the money there so that it's available when we need it. And you'll have the ability to look at what we're reserving or what we want to reserve for, just like you do with your own. We'll just make it part of yours in a separate set of line items, in a separate reserve fund that's held by the towns, because the towns are unlimited in what they can reserve. And we're restricted to that 1.5%, right? That's what it is now, 2 now. 2%. We really need something closer to 7, 8, 9, or 10. It's up to them. If they want to just go with the bonding and paying the interest, fine, we'll do that. We'll continue it. But don't tell us we're not maintaining the schools. Because we're not allowed to hold funds to maintain the schools. We got to wait till it's at the end of its life and replace it. So, anyways.
We're also hearing an awful lot of using as justification for closing the school, oh, we got to fix all these things. And there's reasons for that, as you stated. And it's
Yes.
nothing we can do.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Right, I'm off that soapbox.
No.
I only got another half dozen in the car.
We have a couple, we'll have several more evenings to talk about that.
Yeah, but I'd like to propose, during our budget process early, we ask both
I can
towns.
schedule the joint finance committee meeting and we can raise some of those issues. We always look for agenda items anyway for the joint finance committee. That'd be a good one to raise.
I'd be happy to make the pitch.
Yeah. We'll look to do that in November.
Okay.
Doug, you have a report?
A few items, thank you. Since the last time we met, a few things have happened. We had convocation, my first here or anywhere actually, August 27th. Thank you, Bob, for speaking, and also several of you attended that were able to do that. I think, and this is not me, we ran a thought exchange and got a lot of feedback from folks. I think just being able to be together in the same room was very powerful. We were masked, so it took away from some of it, just like everything else, but still we were able to do that, and I think it was good. And we recognized, as I'm sure you all know, our service award, people that have had long longevity with the district, and folks that won Good Apple Awards nominated by their peers. We also had our Teacher of the Year, Kristen Allen, who gave, I think, a very inspirational speech with some humor. I think that she has a gift for that. And I tried my hand at engaging folks with some storytelling and some small group exercises, which again, I had grand plans to mix them up and have them all over the room and doing all kinds of things, but we really couldn't given the circumstances. So we kind of just did talk to the person next to you type thing. But I think it set a good tone, and I think that tone carried to the following Wednesday, which was our first day of school, September 1st. You all probably know that. Again, maybe I just haven't been anywhere like here before, but this was the smoothest opening that I've ever been a part of. I am used to lots more going wrong, and it taking like 3 to 4 days to actually get into a rhythm or routine. And I'm not saying everything went perfectly well. Some things just can't. It's the nature of it. But one of the things I want to point out, which again, some people think all roads for me lead back to this reimagining work, but you know, the reporters are gone now. They're the class of 2022. But I think it's important to point out, even though you can all probably do this math, that that group we're talking about, that incoming kindergarten class, that's the class of 2034. And if we as adults can look back and look at not just the changes in the last 13 years in our lifetime in the world, but like iterative steps of 13 years and how so much is changing around us and how so much of our lives are different and how so much of school is still the same. And so again, I'm just kind of making this general pitch. I'm kind of preaching to the choir here. I realize that, but that's kind of when I get up in the morning and when I would maybe go to a school and see kindergartners. Yes, they're cute, and yes, it's cool to see all the things that they're doing now, but I'm also trying to envision them graduating in 2034 and saying, did we do everything we could do to prepare them for this world that they're going to face? Or did we just do what we've always done and feel good because we did what we always did? And so that's why I'm going to keep driving us as best I can. So one of the things I will say was a smooth opening. Kim's going to talk more in detail, but we do have some bus driver shortages. I guess what I would say to that, and again, not that this is a competition or a comparison, should mean a lot, but in listening to my colleagues and reading some of the state level survey, I think we are faring much better in terms of bus drivers than most places in Connecticut. And I feel very fortunate that we've been able to do what we're able to do. In some districts, as you know, it's like really bad. They're not picking up children with disabilities at all or very late. Runs are getting late. Some athletics have completely halted their competitions because they can't do all the double runs and get people to sports. Some districts, and I'm not judging them, are actually dismissing their high school athletes like at 11 a.m. because that's the only time they can get them to their competition. So they're basically missing half of their academic day, which, again, it's the only way they can get them to have their sports competition. So I think we're fortunate there.
We had a soccer team here at came at 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock for a 3:35
Yeah,
game.
I saw these cross-country kids showing up. I thought the race had started at like lunchtime.
Yeah.
They were showing up very early and
they're sitting around waiting.
yeah, so again, Kim will talk about that in her section. Talking about COVID, all of what I'm going to share you probably know, but I think it just bears repeating. We are being told that the trend line that they are currently seeing in Connecticut, which matches the national trend, is what they're calling a plateauing. I don't think they want to call it a steady decline because then people will think it's over. But it is a sign of hope. Again, it's a plateauing, so it's not a steep thing. But that is even with Labor Day, even with being back in school, colleges being back. You know, I'm seeing stadiums of 100,000 plus on the weekends, and I'm just kind of wondering. This is really odd. You know, we're doing all of this, and then that stuff is still happening. And I'm not judging that. I love college football, so don't get me wrong. But so we have that. We also have our mask mandate, and we also have our employee vaccine mandate. And I want to speak a little bit about the employee vaccine mandate. We, like every district, are in the process of getting all that teed up for next Monday when it goes into effect. And I am really thrilled to share that 96% of our employees are fully vaccinated for COVID. And the handful, the true handful that are not, are going to start testing and submitting their test results weekly. And so I feel very good about, again, not to make comparisons, many other districts are not in the place that we are. And I think that, to me, in addition to this plateauing, gives us comfort because, again, we're doing masks and we have the vast majority, almost all of our folks fully vaccinated. Another question that we're getting, and you may be getting, and none of us can actually say with 100% certainty, but I'll say it with 99% certainty. They're saying whether they're an employee or whether they're a parent or child doesn't want to wear a mask. Well, all these executive orders expire on September 30th, so why do we really have to do this if, like with the vaccine thing, it starts the 27th and the 30th. So I'm sure you all know there is a special session of the General Assembly that's been called for next week, and there's already a commitment on the side of the majority of the General Assemblies, both House and Senate, to, from what I understand, can't promise it, extend the governor's emergency authorization powers, I think until early February of 2022 is what we have been told. So again, until that happens, okay, yes, it happens on September 30th. But Kevin and I were talking today, we cannot fathom that the governor and the State Department of Health and Education, every other agency that's involved in this, would have put everybody through all this if it was only going to last for 3 days. So if people will believe you, that's what I would suggest that you tell them. Now, there's no telling what the governor will do with those powers, but our understanding is, at least with these mandates for masking and vaccines, we can expect that to continue for the short term. I don't know what to define what that is, but a lot of it, again, depends on case counts and just where things are going. Another thing that I'm sure you heard of, again, I just got this from the news, but I've asked some of our health folks about this. We've got this Pfizer vaccine, and my understanding is that 5 to 11-year-olds, that Pfizer is saying that their trials are showing that it is safe to administer to children at that age, and then now it enters into whatever the FDA process of approval is. And I can't speak to how long that approval process may take. I've heard some people say it might be till like early 2022 till that happens, and others said it could be as early as like early November. So I guess our best guess is somewhere in between that. Again, we don't know that any of our families will choose to have their 5 to 11-year-olds vaccinated, but my suspicion is, just from what I've heard, there will be plenty that do and plenty that don't. And I think our position is, I'll take my cue from Missy, we would encourage them to consult with their medical professional. But we would say the more people that are vaccinated in our schools and in our community, the sooner we think we will be able to get away from some of these mitigation strategies. And I think related to that, and again, we're waiting for Connecticut to officially roll this out, unless they did that in the last 24 hours and I didn't see it. But this now recommendation from the feds that the state agrees with for anyone 65 or older, or anyone that's immunocompromised, to get the booster shot. And so, again, I don't think we're going to be really messaging or communicating on that, because I think that group will know that. But we do have some employees that fit one or both of those categories, and I think that will add yet another layer of safety in all of that. So the only other comment I have is, in spite of what we just heard there when those teachers were presenting and the rain was coming down hard, I'm very excited for my first Durham Fair, and so I hope to see some of you there. And I hope it lives up to all the hype, because it's all I've heard about since the time I interviewed for this job, and hoping and praying that the weather does cooperate so that we get a good return to that. So that's it. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and the staff can help if I can.
Which shift did you sign up to muck out the Culvert?
I don't think I've been volunteered for that one. Maybe next year I'll do that one.
At least not yet, Doug, right?
Yes.
Okay. I thought that was in the contract.
I'll have to go back and read that.
Doug, may I add one thing to your report?
Yes,
It's
yes.
actually good news, and I sit in a position where any good news,
Yes,
especially
bring
great
it on.
news that I have, is makes me want to share it. You mentioned Kristen Allen was our Teacher of the Year for the district, and I just wanted to let the board members know that she had been chosen by the state of Connecticut as one of the 4 finalists, and she was interviewing for that position this evening, or that honor this evening. So, yeah, just wanted to share
If
that.
you win the state, you then go into the nationals.
Yeah.
That's how it rolls.
Yeah.
Johanna Hayes, right?
Did anyone video her speech?
It was all
Called?
recorded.
Did we record any of convocation?
She had someone record her.
Somebody did.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to make it, but I would love to watch it.
Well, see, I'll
It was
see if I
really
can get
funny.
it for you. I know she had somebody record it for her so that she could share it with her family, so I'll see if I can
She
grab
had
it.
people laughing and crying in one speech. I mean,
She started by taking off her shoes and putting on these bright red high heels. like Nora.
As she does.
Yes, she does wear those,
She does
yes.
wear some big heels.
Yes.
I have a question. When we get our stuff from Meg, yes, I couldn't even think of her name, and it goes through like the amount of children that are in the district and things like that, and the changes, and so it lists the students that are not with us right now but are part of our town. So where does that information come from? For instance, like IDS. I know for a fact that there's at least 2 students in 5th grade that go to IDS, and it's only listed as 1. So where does that information come from?
We would only know if the parents told us. I mean, we wouldn't know if those students had never been in our district. We just simply.
No, I mean, I know 2 of them left last year and stayed there, both now in 5th grade, so I was just wondering how accurate those numbers are. And also, and if you don't have the number, if you could just get it to us, what is the final number of how many students left between 8th grade and 9th grade? Because it seemed like a lot.
You mean for the current school year based from last school year?
Yes.
Would it be more prudent to wait for the October 1st numbers? Because isn't that when you do the full survey that goes to the State Department of Ed?
I don't know, I'm still in my first year cycle here, so.
Yeah, so the enrollments, the formal one that's submitted to the State Department of Education is the October 1st
Yeah, so we can wait till the next board meeting, that's fine.
Yeah, and I think that's usually completed by the end of that week, is that right? Is it, or is it?
You wanna say,
Just because Jen in my department does it, it's submitted the first week of October, but it usually takes the state the length of October, and we get results sometime in November on what the finalized everything is.
Right, but the October 1st numbers are also what's used for the apportionment for each of the towns, so forth. But we could have that view as soon as you submit it to the state, right?
Yeah, and with the understanding that the state could, I don't know what they do with it, but.
It takes
could
them
make
to
some minor
certify those numbers. My understanding is it takes up to a month. And I don't believe that exiting families, regardless if they're just not attending our schools, don't have to even tell us where they're going. So we rely on the state to tell us where they end up, if at all, we're told.
Like, we don't report Mercy and Xavier on this list because they don't tell us.
Correct.
So we have to wait to hear that.
It's not a requirement of withdrawal, as I understand it, for the family to tell us where they're going. They're just telling us they're withdrawing their student from our district.
But we get that back from the state? No.
It doesn't even come back with the state. So I think what you might be looking at, Missy, is numbers in terms of special education or special services numbers versus all population numbers.
On that.
On that form. I don't know, I'm trying to pull it up on my phone. I haven't seen it for this month, but I would be able to.
The state would not report to us private school.
No.
Because they don't collect that data.
Okay.
So if it's a magnet school or something like that, the state will give us, it's called an exception report.
So it's only on there if the parent told you where they went?
Yeah, so if it's IDS, if we knew, and the parent told us, then we could count for that. If we don't know, we don't know.
Okay.
Oh, if we don't pay tuition for them either, right?
Correct,
So,
right, okay.
It's the tuition piece.
I see, yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments for Doug? If not, Kim?
I have a little bit of a laundry list of a bunch of different assorted items tonight. First, I'll start with the financials. As we closed out August, we had our first teacher pay. So we were at 14% expended out of our budget, and we've received 18% of our revenue. MTA is at an even 4 and 4, 4% expended and 4% revenue received. And our capital reserve account has been increased by just over $2 million because we received the proceeds from our bond anticipation notes. And that is in there to pay for the Memorial Mechanicals project and some culvert work. The auditors will be out for the next 2 weeks to do field work. They are going to be following Executive Order 13G. I sent them the paperwork today that they have to assure and attest to that their staff coming out on site meets the requirements of the executive order, and they will be masked as well. We have an unaudited estimated surplus. I'm thinking in the neighborhood of $800,000 to $1 million, $800,000 to $1 million, before the $400,000 balancing. So I'd originally thought it would be around 7-8 before the 400. So as we close out some POs, that certainly could go up higher. And also in that number, I have included, well, that number will go down. I have included the chiller for the high school at $250, and the only reason I did that is I encumbered it in that surplus just in case the grant is not approved and we need to do something else. I don't anticipate the grant not being approved, and as soon as that is, we close out that PO and those funds just go back in. I can't go back to June 30th and encumber it again if the grant isn't approved, but I can always close it. With the grant, I found out yesterday in a phone conversation with the state, I was looking for, what's the status of our ARP grant, and we're good. We went through the first initial approval stage, but this final approval stage, the reviewers have been told not to approve any grants. They're going to add an approval stage to that, so with no further detail. So if we run into a cash flow issue with this chiller, she said they would try to prioritize but certainly I don't, we're a few months out. So I didn't want to use that favor if we didn't need it. So she said if we come to a point where we need the cash, let her know, and she would try to expedite the grant. So back to the chiller, that was the $250,000. I had mentioned Eversource incentive is about $35,000, which was higher than we thought. So that's just money we'll get off the top. And then we're estimating the energy savings at the $20,000 a year. I can't really qualify that. I was given a sheet of how that was computed, but no one's going to guarantee that, like we had discussed would be possible. The sinkhole.
Excuse me. So we have agreed we're using the funds from the American Rescue Plan to pay for the chiller, and that doesn't require a vote from the board, right? That's strictly executive under Doug's purview, right? Okay, that's fine. And we're all in agreement on that.
And Bob and I did meet, like that he told the board that we were going to meet, and we met and we talked about some capital leases, and the interest rates were too high. Some banks said that's not even enough for us to even offer you in a capital lease. So we did come to the conclusion that we thought that the ARP grant might be the best way.
Right, and it's one of the designated things is ventilation systems, and this falls right into that wheelhouse, so we thought that would be the best, use of that funds.
So just remind me that it's part of like the COVID thing?
Well, yeah, because in order to have adequate air exchange, we needed to have another compressor, which was broken.
Right, but I thought that, if I recall, or when I was rereading the minutes, that was gonna take up a great portion of that grant.
It will, because the grant is $449, but $90,000 of that is earmarked for learning loss recovery.
Okay.
And then you take the $250 off of that, and then I put in some, we had put in for maybe a COVID sort of liaison at the schools for if kids are on quarantine. So that's in the grant to be approved too. So that was kind of what was ever left over.
And who does that get approved by?
The state of Connecticut.
Okay.
One question on the bond anticipation notes. The funds came in, that's not in the general fund, is that in, that's in a separate
It's in the
account?
capital reserve account.
It's in a separate capital reserve account, thank you.
Yep.
Just wanna make
And
sure.
all the expenses are being paid out of that
And they
capital
get paid
reserve.
out of that, right?
Yep.
Because if it was in the general, then we'd have to transfer it, and that would require board approval, and so we did, yeah, so good.
It went
Thank
right
you.
into capital reserve.
Right into capital reserve, okay, thank you.
Okay. Sinkhole, the manhole in the track is what is apparently causing the problem. It needs to be sealed. So we have a firm that will come and seal it and pour a concrete base to stabilize it. And it's gonna cost $10,000. It's a job they do often, they said. It's a common problem. So it's not something that is not seen. And they'll begin the work the first or the second week of October. I don't need, obviously don't need to go out to bid if it's under 25. Don't need a board vote on that, but I just wanted you guys to know that's going to be a pricey fix, but it has to be done. And
that was the result of the storms we had and everything else.
yes, and we have a big, I think, a high water table out there to begin with, and then with the storms, it just kind of eroded it.
There's a stream that runs constantly through that manhole, and the pipeline that's under the turf field, under the field. And if you'll open the manhole, you can hear the water running in there, and it you know, these things leak after a while, and I think with a heavy rain, it probably filled the pipe and came out and started sucking the dirt back in. But it's quite a big hole.
We've been repairing quite a bit of things in town. And as, you know, as I said to our public works guys, you know, hey, we have a rainy day fund and we have a rainy day. So, let's get the stuff fixed.
Thank you for explaining that.
What it
Bobby did
takes.
a much better job than I could have.
Well, it used to be my life, you know,
Yeah.
fixing the holes.
Well, Jimmy gives me an update, and then I get here, and I'm like, what did he say again? Like, I write it down, but, okay, oh, and then scoreboards. The scoreboards have been ordered for the indoor. They were supposed to be delivered on the 21st, but there was some delay in shipping, but Todd is on it. He's monitoring it. We had the outdoor final proofs received, and they're going to be ordered soon. So those will be in place for the outdoor sports. And we...
It's just baseball. It's
softball.
baseball and softball.
Softball. Mm-hmm. Yep, baseball and softball.
Not football or soccer. That one works.
Yep. Bus driver shortage, again, with the executive order, the governor's executive order, I sent all the paperwork over to DACO. They're gonna send back, they're collecting their driver vaccination cards and testing, and will just send us an attestation with the total number of who's vaccinated, not by name, but by number, who needs testing and whatnot, and they will send those periodically to make sure that the people that are testing often, and just so that I have an update. Let me just say the bus drivers are doing an amazing job. They are very valuable to us. They are very flexible. They're doubling, sometimes tripling routes. They're getting up every day. They're coming to work, and they're getting our kids to school and home safely. And it might be a little bit later than what's convenient or what's on the route, and certainly we hope to improve that soon, but they're getting them there, and they're doing a phenomenal job. I let them know often that how much I appreciate them, and we do that by bringing over, I brought over some donuts and some muffins this week, and we have like our little bags with the district logo on it, and to make them feel like they're part of our district, because they are. We gave them, those masks, the RSD13 masks, and, really we have the drivers there that really feel like they belong to us, and I think that really helps us retain our drivers. Saying that, we're 3 to 4 drivers short still. Desi, who is our office assistant, also drives routes. So oftentimes we didn't have somebody in the office. And that would create a problem if a parent was trying to call in if the bus didn't come or whatever. So I had a conversation with DACO, and they have put the safety director in the office when Desi's not there. So now there's a person answering the phone and letting parents know, oh yeah, can radio the buses, they're 10 minutes out or whatever. We don't have any alternate drivers yet, so even we're 3 drivers short, but we have no alternates. However, we have one driver who's waiting on a background check, 1 driver in training, and 1 student transport van, the smaller van's driver, awaiting medical clearance. So we've got 2 type 1s coming up in the wings and 1 STV, so that really will help us out a lot. We had 5 days that we had to double routes. It may seem like, other than 1 consistent, we consistently double 1 route every single day. And then we had 5 days that we've had to, including today, double quite a few routes. Some it's just in the morning, sometimes it's just in the afternoon, sometimes it's both.
And if there's an issue or question from a parent as to like the bus is really late or whatever, are they supposed to call the school, or are they supposed to call DATCO, or?
So they really can do either. Really, if they call DACO directly, they're gonna get a faster answer because DACO will just radio the bus.
Okay.
If they call the school, they'll say, hold on, let me call DACO, DACO will call. So if they're out somewhere and they don't know DACO's number, always can call the school.
Okay.
But DACO will get a quicker answer. And then, we have some organizations, the Connecticut school business officials, and also CABE, is getting involved, and the state of Connecticut, in trying to facilitate the background checks, to get them done faster, to get drivers on board faster, and maybe even rallying for some increase in a little bit of pay. That's what my CASBO group is saying, that, you know, maybe we need to up starting pay a little bit. So there's a lot of groups that are really getting involved in this. So that's good to see. We talked about the building committee. We took care of that. And my last thing on my list is the advertising policy. After last board meeting, I went back to the policy and I actually met with Bob on, gosh, was it Friday? Yeah. And we talked about some of the ideas of, you know, how we would structure this so that the board would have two options as how they wanted to run this. I did check with the auditor, and the auditor said they didn't necessarily require us to put the funds in any account. They would just say, did you get cash or did you get an item? And then they would record it as that if it was put back. So really it comes back to the board and the policy committee to determine how those funds are distributed and who's gonna run.
When I looked at the advertising policy that Kim worked on, it became very, for us to run it would probably, and this is just for putting signs up around the fields on fences, would probably end up being that we would make no money on it because of the time it would take to administer it and a few other things. And it was the cost of doing that. So we also talked about what else gets covered. You know, POPS has programs that's under our letterhead or signal on it. I got a thing from the soccer this week that I bought just a thing for my soccer grandson in soccer, and it's a whole series of coupons for different money off at different stores around the area, and it's written by obviously some formal printer. And I don't know how much money we get out of that or how much the soccer club gets out of it. They get a piece of it. So as we looked at the rules, there's things that we probably want to exempt because we don't want to deal with it. POPs, we want, if they want to put a brochure out and sell cupcakes, we don't want to deal with that revenue. If the soccer, baseball, and basketball still have programs, in their programs there's advertising, and there's advertising in those programs, and we don't print it, we don't want to know it, and they distribute the money back to wherever it went. And they're all 501c3, or some of them are, and they are responsible for their taxes, for their revenue and reporting and that. So we looked at whether or not, and where we're at now is that if the bench warmers, for example, would take over this function, we would specify the types of the size and shape and signs of where they could be, like none in the gym inside the building, but only on fences, when they could come up, when they could come down, we would control all that. And then let them determine the cost and let them collect it and let them distribute it. If they're gonna buy something like a new sign with that money, then we have to approve that sign or whatever facility that's somebody wanted to buy a new stage lights, we'd have to approve those things. But if they're buying t-shirts or food or other things like they normally do, we would not get involved in that. And Kim has started to draft that up, and we'll bring it back to policy so that we can have a full discussion of it. But I was really trying to look at how do we make this so it's not a burden to us, we control what gets said and used on our property, and it doesn't get into the detail of, once we have an advertising policy, does it cover everything? Does it cover every program that says RSD13 on it or not? And how do we avoid doing that when we have a whole series of rules that says we're going to control these things and control the money? So we don't want to basically break what's already working. by all these little clubs and organizations. So, and we'll try to build into the, policy to make sure that, it's up to them to respond how the money gets spent. But if there's donations, we have to deal with Title IX, we have to deal with all those things. But if it's just buying T-shirts, and I know like the softball clubs bought and baseball clubs bought jackets, and the softball club bought rings for the players this year. And do we want to get involved in that? And so we want to make sure those things continue to work, that we're not engaged in it, but they respect our requirements for how we run this thing. And there is some accounting to how they collect and distribute the money, that they report to us quarterly or semi-quarterly or, whatever a reasonable time frame. So Kim and I started working on that. We'll bring it back to the policy committee at the next meeting, and hopefully we can have it finalized at that time.
Are they reporting now to us?
No.
No, because I heard what Jamie said last meeting we had, where Jamie said if they want to do it and they're doing it, these groups are already all running booths at the Durham Fair. They're collecting the money and they're giving it back to the school. I mean, we don't want to get involved in.
Most of it comes back as scholarships, but periodically some comes back as signs.
The bench warmers stuff comes back as.
Right. We put their name on the gym floor in the strong school.
No, I know that, so, yeah, so.
Yeah, I guess my only concern is if the signage or something is in a communal space that is used by several different sports teams, I just worry it's our, effectively the school space that is then being used to generate revenue for our teams. I think that we have to be very careful about the equity piece, about where that money is going within those school programs. I would be perfectly fine if we said, if they put up signs on the football field / track field, then all signage on the field has to be equitably distributed across all teams and programs that utilize that field. That's one thing. But if the track team is able to get signage for all and take up all the signage for the entire field, and then they use that money to funnel it into the track team only, that's a problem. And I'm just saying these are all hypotheticals, but we will have no control over that, and that worries me from just the standpoint of equity and trying to figure out how that money is distributed. So that's very different than Pops having a program and having a solo program that they're raising money for, and they're doing all the things. They're not, it's not outside of that. It's very different from the football teams doing it for their particular thing. It's a communal space, and they're leveraging that communal space. And I just want to make sure if we're doing that the use of that communal space for raising money is then equity distributed across all teams and organizations that are using that space.
One of the things we did to talk about that is to make sure that only we hire we engage one entity to do that, so that there's only one organization doing selling all the advertising and putting up the signs, so they control it, and then they would easier to control to make sure that their distribution was equitable. If you have every club selling.
But we won't have any, we won't know. Unless we ask for the bench warmers breakdown of their distribution by sports teams and how they're allocating that money, we just won't know, and we won't actually have the right to know that unless it's built into the policy statement.
Oh, that's what we were talking about doing.
Yeah, okay. I mean, so those are just the things that we should think about when we draft the policy, because I'm all for generating revenue in that way, and I think there's no reason why we shouldn't have advertising. I just think we have to be very careful about how we do it.
I think also, they're asking to put signage up for an event and take it down, so it's not like unfair use of the space. They're gonna do it for their event, they're gonna take it down themselves, so somebody else can use that space. That's what they're proposing.
Are they
That's
though,
not
or
how
is
I
it gonna
perceive
stay
it.
up
That's what I saw.
I perceive this as like
Yeah,
this
like,
size.
Well, it's up to us.
It's not permanent
I mean,
signage,
we can
it's
do that.
for the event,
But
take
I
it
mean, like,
down,
that
let
don't
somebody
wanna
else
spend
use
the
it.
time.
money for their sign to be up for
Yeah,
that.
For like,
what
yeah,
I'm
for an hour.
accustomed to.
Let them take it down. We don't
in
want
terms
them
of
to spend
a-
resources
In terms of
doing
a
that.
marketing strategy, if you're a local business, you wanna buy it for a year or two, because the sign is not a track sign or a football sign or a pop sign or whatever. It's a.
Parsons stuff.
Yes, and that's their market, just like a billboard or something like that. But I think that's actually to our advantage, because then, it would be a good kind of problem to have if we ran out of space. Because that would mean we would maximize the revenue that we had generated. And the donor, I don't think, gets to designate how the money is spent. They're just paying for their thing to be up there. So, yes, I don't think it would, I've not seen it be event or season specific. I don't think you'd get a lot of businesses that would want to do that.
That was in the original proposal by
It
the
was,
Hockentree
okay.
Football Club, though, was to put it up and remove it.
Well, hey, if there are
Yeah.
businesses that wanna do that, I think we welcome that.
We had indicated that we didn't want any signs up at graduation. So the time period would be during the sporting season, so you could have, the signs up around the track, and then the only thing in there, after the fall is the spring track. And they could still leave the signs up for that as well. And then the other ones would be in the baseball field and softball field. But we also think, don't think there should be anything in the gym.
One of the concerns that I had heard
Unless
is.
it's in the scoreboard and Coca-Cola wants to pay for the scoreboard.
Well, they have scoreboards now with digital screens that can be
Right.
rotating advertisements, so.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be one.
So one of the things several years back that I had started down the path of, and our policy wouldn't support it, is corporate sponsorship of the sports. And I think corporate sponsorship should reside with should be in the policy and should reside with the board.
That's different, yes.
Yes, because that is very different, and
That's whether or
in
not
that case.
they're all wearing Nike shoes or something like that.
Right, so it's like you contact Wilson Sport and say, Wilson, would you like to be the sponsor of our sports and give us a 20% discount on any sports equipment, whether it's baseball equipment, blah, 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 and we'll hang your signs. And in that case, I would advocate being able to hang them inside as well. So for corporate sponsorship, I think we'd look at a different set of rules if we could attract a corporate sponsor.
Can I denorm and say this is not on the agenda, and can we save it for policy?
Sure. Yeah,
Just because it's
yeah.
8:45.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
just
you.
going way beyond.
That was my finance report, but that's what we did. So we'll move this policy back and get it done.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, we have time for public comment. Sometime, you're gonna have a comment. Thank
Come on,
you.
John.
Are you sure? All right, then motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.